suficiente.
What's going on, everybody? So I've got kind of a fun video for you today. So I wanted to go ahead and rank order all of the states that I've driven a truck through and put them in order of my favorite to least favorite, or actually for this list we'll do least favorite to favorite. Now, just so you know, this is from the perspective of a truck driver. So in the course of my life, I've been to 47 states. The only 3 states I've never been to before ever are Rhode Island, Alaska, and Hawaii. Those are the only 3. However, there's going to be 8 states that are not included on this list because I have not driven a truck through them. So that's an important distinction. So the 8 states that I've never driven a truck through and are not going to be on this list are Alaska, Connecticut, Hawaii, Maine, Montana, North Dakota, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. Okay, so those are the 8 states that are not going to be on this list. Again, 5 of those I've been to before, just I haven't driven a truck through them, so they're not going to be on here. Also, this is Hermione, of course. She refuses to get down so I can make this video, so we're just going to have to make the video with her in it, because she wants to be in it, apparently. She's looking out the window at something. I don't know what she sees, but also, just so you know, right now, we're in Fresno, California. We're getting loaded. We're heading up to Washington State after this. Still have a red light, so hopefully I can get this done before they're finished loading me up. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. So, you guys know that I'm from Florida. I grew up there. I was born there. And after driving across the country for over a year, I can confirm to start this list off that Florida is dead last. Florida is number 42 out of 42 on my list. Florida is an absolute abomination to drive through. And to tell you the truth, I have less appreciation for driving through Florida now that I'm a trucker, because I honestly thought it was normal. The Orlando traffic, that's the area I live near, is Orlando. So I thought I-4 was just totally normal to be an absolute nightmare all the time, 24/7. I thought, oh, everywhere it must be like this. No, not everywhere is like that. That is particular to my beautiful home. So Florida comes in at dead last on the list. Even the parts that are rural and empty, where you don't have traffic, they're still boring and they're kind of ugly. It's just a bunch of trees, man. And I know for some people that floats their boat. That's what they like, is just driving through the trees. But no, I don't like that look. As you'll see as we go down the list, that's going to be a running theme. That's not my favorite look in the country. So anyway, next is number 41. We're going to go right upstairs to Georgia. Georgia comes in at number 41. Georgia has a similar problem to Florida, which is that obviously you have Atlanta, which is probably the worst city in America to drive through as a trucker, or as anyone, I mean, even in a car. Anything in Georgia that's not Atlanta is either ugly, boring, or still some sort of a nightmare. There seems to always be traffic between Macon and Atlanta, not even through Atlanta. And then Georgia is bigger than people think. It's long and it's boring. I-75 is crowded. It's kind of a nightmare. Savannah gets some traffic through it sometimes. I-95 is an easy enough drive because it's like 3 or 4 lanes the whole way. But people drive like psychopaths over there. So you're never free from anything. There's never any moment where you're just like chilling at ease in Georgia. You got to stay hyper focused because it's a rough drive. So number 40, New Jersey. This one seems pretty obvious. I think anyone who when the first second you heard what this video was going to be about, you figured New Jersey would be somewhere near the bottom. You were right. New Jersey is a nightmare. Now, I will admit the Jersey Turnpike is a decent road on its own. The Jersey Turnpike is well paved. They even have lanes separating the cars from the trucks, which is nice. But overall, especially if you have to pick up or drop loads in Jersey, it is a mess. It's a nightmare. Tight little roads. Every inch of Jersey basically is crowded. You never, I mean, I won't say never, but so yeah. Anyway, New Jersey, I think it speaks for itself. It's a mess everywhere. It's, like I said, very crowded. It is statistically the most densely populated state in America, so it's not really a shock. But coming in next, number 39, West Virginia. So there's no inherent issue with West Virginia. In fact, if I was doing a ranking as my favorite states or most beautiful states, West Virginia would be nowhere near the bottom. I actually love West Virginia. It's gorgeous. But as a truck driver, West Virginia is a nightmare. It's a terrible state to drive through because it is the most mountainous state in America. Now, it doesn't have the tallest mountains, but if you're talking by square mileage, West Virginia is the most mountainous state in America. So there is basically no part of the state that's flat. No matter where you are in the state, it's going to be hilly. It's going to be up and down. You're going to have, even where there's no mountain grades, like where they have a whole sign for you saying, hey, 5% grade, 4% grade, whatever. You're always in some sort of an up or down. Always. And it's very hard on the truck. And you have to be careful going through anywhere in West Virginia if you're expecting any kind of weather. You can't count on going, like when you're calculating your loads and what time you're going to arrive somewhere, for example, you can't count on full speed going through West Virginia. You have to take off an average 5 miles an hour probably because it takes so much extra time getting through there. So yeah, I really don't like going through West Virginia. It's hard on the truck. So next up, 38 is Arkansas. So Arkansas is just one of those states that I just never liked being there. I don't like the feeling there. Sometimes you just go through somewhere and there's just something about it that you're not a fan of. It's just, I don't like driving in the South generally anyway, but the only parts of Arkansas that are kind of nice to drive through, I guess, is I'm blanking on the road name right now, or the number, but you guys will know what I'm talking about. There's a road that connects from Memphis. It sort of cuts the corner of Arkansas and goes into southern Missouri. That's how we get to Springfield if you're going from the south up into Springfield. Yeah, I guess it's kind of nice. It's hilly and stuff, but even those roads that are nice to look at, they're hard on your truck. Similar issue to West Virginia. It's very up and down, very hilly, tight little roads. 2 lanes out the whole way. And then whatever parts of Arkansas aren't there are just kind of flat, boring farmlands or forests. Just not much to look at. Yeah, it's just not my cup of tea. Not something I enjoy driving through. So, number 37, I've got Massachusetts. So Massachusetts, similar issue to New Jersey. It's just too crowded, man. It's just too many people. The roads are a nightmare. People drive like psychos up there as well. Yeah, and over in the western half of Massachusetts, it's very hilly as well, and that can be a bit of a challenge on the truck. But especially considering how crowded the roads are, even over there, then you have people flying around you as you're trying to crawl up a mountain and stuff. It can be a nightmare. Luckily, I haven't had to pick up or drop a load in Massachusetts before. I've never had any load to or from there. I've only gone through. But I would imagine that similar to Jersey, anytime you have to get off the interstate for anything, it's probably a bit of a nightmare through Massachusetts. So, next up, number 36, we have Maryland. Running theme here. Maryland also is just too damn crowded. Too many people. That stretch between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore is, oh my gosh, it's a mess. And the loop around DC specifically on the Maryland side is one of the worst roads in America. I absolutely hate that road. So yeah, there's just no positive elements to driving through Maryland pretty much whatsoever. I guess if you get out, I actually had a load going to Upper Marlboro, which is sort of out away from things a little bit. I ended up going all the way to the little town of Dunkirk. I stayed the night there. And so once you get away from the cities, it can be kind of nice, I guess. But really, it just kind of looks the same as if you're driving through somewhere in Virginia. So there's no like charm to it necessarily. There are mountains in the western half of Maryland, but they're not pretty enough to make it worth how hard it is on the truck going up those mountain grades. So yeah, lands in the bottom 10. So number 35 is Tennessee. So look, I'll just say right off the bat, in a leisurely setting, Tennessee is one of my favorite states. I love Tennessee. As a truck driver, Tennessee sucks, and I hate driving through Tennessee. The main reason why it's... Ow. Ow. You're hurting me. The main reason why I hate Tennessee is specifically because it is... The interstates are all very crowded, and in many places, they leave the interstates as 2 lanes where it really needs to be at least 3. So, yeah, the issue with Tennessee is not that I don't enjoy it. I do in a leisurely setting, but as a trucker, Tennessee is pretty tough to drive through. All the cities are a mess. Memphis is under perpetual construction and truly one of the worst cities in America, just objectively speaking. Nashville is super crowded all the time and it's constantly growing, and so the roads are just getting more and more crowded every year, every month it seems. Knoxville and Chattanooga both, even though they're not as big as Memphis or Nashville, in terms of population, there's always traffic through them too. They're always a nightmare. It's like no matter where you go, it's always a mess. The roads are just too crowded for how small the interstate is. There are too many places where the road is 2 lanes and it really needs to be 3, or where it's 3 lanes and needs to be 4, for example. They need to expand it. That's really the problem. So you end up getting a lot of people stuck behind you as a trucker, especially us in these prime trucks. Our max is 65. We are governed at 65 miles an hour, and that's not fast enough for some of these goons out here. So yeah, that's what makes Tennessee kind of difficult. So next up, number 34 is Louisiana. Now, I don't have anything against Louisiana necessarily. It's just a boring drive. That's all. It's flat everywhere. Now, it is easy on the truck. It's good for your fuel mileage. It's kind of easy, I guess. But I like to find a middle ground somewhere between ease and scenery as well. I'm not one of those guys that like, I want to just drive Florida to Louisiana back and forth because it's so good on them. Look, I would fall asleep at the wheel if I had to drive between Florida and Louisiana back and forth every week. Okay, it's just a boring drive. And, that's not my favorite thing. I don't like driving down there when it's like that. And New Orleans and Baton Rouge are both always crowded. Baton Rouge is not too bad, but you can get it sometimes at bad spots. The interstate has a couple tight little curves through it that cause everything to be congested and stack up on the roads. Shreveport, for God's sake, is one of the worst paved roads. Goes through downtown Shreveport there on I-20. Literally, your truck is just boom, 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 up and down because the roads are god awful. So yeah, there's just no redeeming qualities really, so it lands down near the bottom of the list. Number 33 is Mississippi. Same issue with Louisiana. It's just the South, man. It's just, on sunny days, I guess it's kind of nice, whatever, but you got to remember too, going through the South very frequently, especially during the summer, there's always thunderstorms going through there, and, it's just, I just don't get a nice feeling driving through there. It's not like I feel like I'm at home or anything. I don't know. It's just a boring drive. Pretty flat, pretty uneventful. The only city through there is Jackson, at least on I-20. And Jackson, it doesn't get congested or anything, but it's got a couple tight little turns as well you got to be careful on. I guess the highlight of Mississippi would be probably I-22 up in the corner that goes through Tupelo. It's a little hilly, I guess. It's the only thing I can really think of for it. So, number 32, we've got Delaware. I mean, what do you want me to say about Delaware? It's like I've never been down in Delaware too much, but it's got to be on the list because I've driven a truck through it. So, but the only part I've been on is the little clip of 95. It's like 15 miles. What do you want me to say? It is what it is. It lands somewhere near the bottom of the list because it's just one of those. Oh, I didn't even realize we were in Delaware, and now we're out of it already. So it's what it is. I guess it lands near the bottom because it can get quite crowded through there. Even though it's such a short little stretch of interstate, it does get kind of crowded actually because it's so close to Philadelphia. And of course there's a lot of traffic between Jersey and Baltimore. So, it can get crowded. So even though it's such a small little piece of interstate, it can be a little tricky to drive through even. So it's not worth being near the top of the list or anything. So number 31, we have Virginia. Virginia has similar issues to Tennessee actually. Virginia, especially Interstate 81 through Virginia, is a tough drive, okay, as a truck driver. And I'm sure a lot of you who are watching this who drive in your cars and aren't truck drivers probably get pissed off at trucks on I-81 in Virginia because just like Tennessee, that road needs to be expanded. Seriously, it's like 2 lanes the whole way. There are barely any points where it opens up to 3 lanes. So there's lots of uphills where trucks are going super slow, trying to get uphill, and the roads are always crowded. They're always busy. So, you always have people trying to fly around the trucks going uphill. You have other trucks trying to fly around the other trucks who are clogging up the left lane now, and then everyone's pissed off. Virginia is specifically I-81 is a mess. And then, of course, even 95 can be a mess as well. It's a very crowded road, very dangerous road, especially through Richmond, around DC as well. It's always crowded. Just, it's pretty and all. I like the drive scenery-wise. I like it when I'm in my car. I've done that drive on my leisure more than once, and I enjoy it then. And I enjoy driving my car through Virginia. But as a truck driver, Virginia is one of the harder states. Next up, we have Indiana at number 30. So, Indiana, the only issue with Indiana is, it's just kind of boring. I will say, Indiana, the reason that it's a little higher up on the list, it's not like down at the bottom. The reason is because Indiana is good with truck parking. On I-70, going across, there's like 3 rest areas that have like 200 truck spaces in them. And so if you could say anything good about driving through Indiana, it's that you're really never going to have to be strained to find a spot to park. You can always be guaranteed you'll have somewhere you'll be able to find somewhere to park in Indiana, basically. Which is nice. So that takes one little piece of stress off your mind when you're driving through there. But other than that, there aren't a lot of redeeming qualities to it. It's just one of those sort of drive-through states. We do pick up and drop off very frequently in Indiana. And I guess one of the other good things I could say about it is that there's a lot of, even the back roads and the back highways of Indiana are pretty truck accessible. You don't really have to worry too much about things like low bridges or overweight roads or anything like that. It's a pretty truck friendly state, so it's just too boring to be any higher on this list. Sorry. Next up, number 29, we have Kentucky. So Kentucky is just one of those average states that kind of balances itself out. So I will say that Louisville is one of the I guess you could say it's one of the easier big cities to drive through, but nevertheless, it's still crowded, and you still get traffic at rush hour and stuff if you happen to get stuck there at that time. But it's definitely better than Tennessee. That's why it's higher than Tennessee on this list, because especially on I-75, Kentucky at least is 3 or 4 lanes the whole way. It's not until you hit Tennessee that it goes down to 2 lanes. So Kentucky at least has stuff like that going for it. But yeah, it's just one of those sort of flyover states, in my opinion. It's one of those states that we go through very frequently, and it doesn't have any extra charm to it, in my opinion. It just falls somewhere in the average category. So, number 28, we've got South Carolina. So just another story of the South with this one, really. South Carolina, I-85 through South Carolina is kind of a tricky drive, because it's under like perpetual construction. I don't remember any time in the past 5 to 10 years going through there that it hasn't been under construction. And there's lots of places in the country like that, but right there, going through Spartanburg and Greenville and stuff, it's a very crowded interstate and a lot of construction going on there, so it's just not a fun drive. And there's nowhere in South Carolina really that redeems it from that. It's just one of those southern states that just a lot of trees and a lot of people. That's all there is. So next up, number 27, we have Kansas. So one of the things, I'll say two things that Kansas has going for it. Number one is that Kansas, you can drive on almost any road in Kansas. Pretty much all the back roads and the county highways, the U.S. highways, pretty much all of them are truck friendly, which is nice. You don't really have to worry about turning down there's no mountains in Kansas, so you don't have to worry about turning down some road where you're going to fly off a cliff. There's no cliffs to fly off of. So that's nice. But the other good thing I'll say about Kansas is that we pick up a lot of loads in Kansas, and no matter where they go in the country, they tend to pay a lot of money, which is nice, because Kansas is a production market. So they produce a lot. And especially for us driving reefer trailers, we haul a lot of meat out of Kansas, a lot of pork, a lot of beef, and stuff like that. So a lot of those meat loads coming out of Kansas tend to pay really well. So Kansas is always a good place to be if you need to pick something up, if you're trying to get a good paycheck for the week. So I will at least say that about it. Next up, number 26, we have Iowa. Iowa, I don't know what you want me to say. Iowa's just, it's easy enough of a drive, I guess. It's pretty flat. There's a little bit of hills, but it's pretty flat. It's more similar to Kansas, I think, in my opinion. Like, a lot of the back highways are truck accessible, which is nice. You got a lot of charming little towns, I guess, which is probably the highlight of it. But overall, Iowa's a pretty forgettable state. We go through it very frequently on I-80. So I'm always going through there. It's just not super impressive to me every time I go through. So, it doesn't stick out. There's nothing super exciting about it. So, but it's not like terrible either. There's nothing negative about it where I would have to place it lower on the list either. So somewhere in the middle of the pack. Next up, number 25, we've got Illinois. So Illinois, Chicago, I know a lot of people complain about Chicago, but I'm actually going to disagree just a little bit. So when it comes to gigantic cities, and Chicago is a huge city, Chicago is the third biggest city in America. When it comes to huge cities like that, Chicago is one of the better ones to drive through. Chicago actually is not that bad. I will say I've had to get off the interstate through Chicago, and that is a little tough, but honestly, that's with any city. I'd rather drive through Chicago than a lot of cities I can think of off the top of my head. It's not that bad. And the rest of Illinois is pretty forgettable. It's pretty just average farm country. So it ends up just sort of averaging out, basically. That's why it's in the middle of the pack here. So, all right, number 24, we've got Alabama. Alabama is probably one of the nicer states to drive through in the South, at least. I actually like Alabama. I find that Alabamans are probably the nicest Southerners that there are. Everyone's really nice there. The roads are in good condition through there. So yeah, I don't have an issue with Alabama. I like driving through there. Yeah, the roads are in good condition. It is a little boring, I guess, just because it is the South, but Alabama has some nice areas up in the north, areas that are hilly. I don't know if I would call it mountainous, but they're hilly enough, and it's not too hard on the truck or anything, you know, there's no crazy mountain grades or anything. So you get kind of the best of both worlds through Alabama a little bit. So I always like driving through there, I don't mind. Next up, we've got at number 23 is Missouri. So Missouri is, of course, the home of Prime. You know, that's where Springfield is. I spent a lot of time in Missouri, obviously, specifically in Springfield, and I've been to every corner of Missouri. And it just averages out. Missouri is a nice drive, no matter where you are. There's nothing bad about it. But also, there's nothing super spectacular about Missouri that stands out to me. So, it lands in the middle of the pack on this list. I think probably my favorite drive in Missouri would be, probably 70 across if I had to pick. But they all look very similar to each other. Missouri looks pretty similar from corner to corner. Except it's a little hillier in the southeast than it is anywhere else in the state. But overall, Missouri is a pretty average state, and I don't have any qualms with it. So, next up, number 22, we have Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is another one of these states that I love to drive through on my own, but as a trucker, it's just a little tough. Now, it does average out because I really enjoy going through there, and we do a lot of loads in Pennsylvania, so I'm there very frequently. So I'm not going to put it at the bottom of the list, but it is a pretty tough state to drive through as a trucker. It's very mountainous, and similar to what I was talking about with West Virginia, but Pennsylvania doesn't have basically anywhere that's flat. It's all at some point pretty hilly or mountainous. So it can be hard on the truck, but generally, I prefer driving there than other places like West Virginia, for example. There's more services, there's more things to see. I feel I get a better feeling there, so I have it higher up on the list, so it's somewhere in the average realm. So, number 21, California. So this one's going to be a bit controversial because most of you truckers will put California as either dead last or somewhere near the bottom of this list, because I will concede to you, California is a pain in the ass to drive through. I will absolutely concede that. California is, first problem is 55 miles an hour for trucks everywhere. Even when you're out past Barstow in the middle of the desert, 3 hours from the closest civilization, still 55 max. It's ridiculous, okay? Not to mention the CHP and the DOT in California are super active. They're always looking for reasons to give you bajillion-dollar tickets. All of that, I see you, I hear you. However, the reason California is in the middle of the list here, it's almost perfectly average, is because it's just so gorgeous. It's an amazing, amazing state to drive through. Not everywhere. I mean, some parts of it are kind of ugly. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the valley, going through like, you know, Stockton, Modesto, Fresno, where I am right now. It's okay out here. It's just kind of flat. The towns are kind of nasty and whatever, but I mean, when you get up to Northern California, you go past Mount Shasta, or when you're over taking Donner Pass down I-80, oh man, it's some of the prettiest, most amazing scenery in the whole world, let alone the country. It's absolutely incredible. California, it is a shame what happened to California, why it's such a mess, because it truly is a wonder of the world, the natural beauty of the state. So, as much of a pain in the butt that it is to drive through here, it averages out because it's an amazing place, and there really is nowhere else on earth like California. And I enjoy driving through here leisurely more than a trucker, but still, I don't mind coming here. You know, it's worth it to me. So, Next up, number 20, we have Ohio. Ohio is always a decent drive. I don't have anything against Ohio. It's just a lot of farms. I'm very familiar with a lot of the back roads of Ohio because I go through there very, very frequently. I'm always in Ohio. We're always picking up and dropping in Columbus specifically, and Columbus is a pretty easy city to drive through, all things considered. Cincinnati's a little tougher. Cincinnati's kind of a pain in the ass. And so is Cleveland, because those two are both more hilly. But Columbus is pretty flat. Toledo's pretty flat. But averaged out, the whole state is pretty average. There's nothing to cry home to mom about. All of the back roads, like I said, the U.S. highways, the county highways, they're all pretty good. They got nice, quaint little towns along them, so I don't have anything to complain about with Ohio. Number 19, we have Oklahoma. Oklahoma is, I actually don't mind driving through there. I kind of like the Great Plains, generally more than I do like the Midwest or the South. I don't really have an issue driving through Oklahoma. I-40 across is kind of a nice drive in my opinion. I will say it is kind of boring, but there's something that I like about the Great Plains view and the way it looks. I like the openness of it, and so I don't really mind. And then, over in the Panhandle up there, it's so empty too. You guys know I like driving through anywhere that's empty, away from people. Up there near Boise City or Guyman or any of those towns in the Panhandle that go from Texas into Kansas or whatever. So yeah, I don't mind Oklahoma. It's a nice drive. Probably the worst part of the state is the drive down from Tulsa to Oklahoma City on the turnpike. Yeah, it's kind of empty. There's not a lot of services for trucks. There's like 2 travel plazas, and that's basically it. But other than that, Oklahoma's a good drive. It's a good state to go through. So, number 18, we have Nebraska. So Nebraska, I prefer Nebraska to Kansas personally. I think 80 across Nebraska is an easier drive than 70 across Kansas, in my opinion. It's just a little bit nicer to look at. Nebraska has some interesting areas that are off the beaten path as well, like over in the western half of the state, over near Scottsbluff and stuff. You get these cool bluffs and these cool almost canyon looking things. But I like the aesthetic of Nebraska. It's not as much of a pain in the butt to me as it is other places. It's kind of boring, and God knows it's a long drive taking 80 across. But overall, I don't have any issues with it, and I do it very frequently, so I'm very familiar with whatever truck stops there are in towns along there, so I don't have any issues with Nebraska. Number 17, we have Michigan. Michigan, I leave a little skewed towards the top of the list because I really like driving in the country side of Michigan. I like the small towns there. They're really nice. They're really pretty, and Michigan is just one of those friendly states that you just get a good feeling when you're driving through. So I always enjoy taking loads from Michigan. They tend to pay pretty decent as well. So yeah, I don't have any issues. It ends up staying in the top half at least. So number 16, we've got North Carolina. North Carolina is one of my favorite states on my own. As a trucker, it's at place 16 on my list. So North Carolina is, half of it's pretty boring and half of it is really beautiful. So obviously 95 through North Carolina is kind of crappy. I don't really like taking that, especially down by Fayetteville. There's a ton of construction and the road is all messed up. But anywhere over through Raleigh is a decent city to drive through. And then you stretch from Greensboro, Winston-Salem. Those are all good cities to drive through. They're not too bad for truckers. Charlotte isn't bad either. Charlotte's set up really good. You've got the loop that goes all the way around. They call it the perimeter. And, that is really good that you don't have to go through downtown in Charlotte. But even if you did have to go through downtown, Charlotte is such a big city, like spread out so big, that the traffic there doesn't even get too bad, honestly. So Charlotte's one of the easier big cities to drive through. Yeah, there's not a lot of bad areas in North Carolina. Of course, the western half of North Carolina as well is really scenic, in my opinion. I love taking 40 from North Carolina into Tennessee. Even though it's a pain in the butt and you got to take it nice and slow, it's beautiful. Next up, number 15, we've got Minnesota. I really enjoy Minnesota. It's, the people there, of course, are very nice, which, by the way, is what they're known for, so I'm not saying anything new here. But Minnesota's a nice city to drive through. I will admit to you guys, I've never had to drive a truck through Minneapolis or St. Paul, so I don't know how the Twin Cities are for truckers, but I have been out in the country, Minnesota. I've been on 90. I had a load to Rochester, actually, and that was nice. It was a nice city to drive through. It was nice, easy unload. I just haven't had any issues there. I always get a good feeling in Minnesota. I like going there, so it lands up near the top half of the list. So, number 14, we've got New York. So, New York's another controversial state because a lot of you put it dead last, but here's the thing you guys have to understand. Driving through upstate New York I love it. I love driving in upstate. It's gorgeous. It's usually a pretty good ride. Now, I will admit there's a lot of tolls and stuff, which is kind of annoying. But other than that, I love driving through upstate. Especially, I went all the way up to Champlain, which is up on the border with Canada. And I love it up there. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it up there. I just get a good feeling. And you have to go through the Adirondacks to get up there. And you get out off the beaten path in upstate as well. And you go through these really nice little towns and stuff. It's just always a good drive through there. So, I'll admit to you guys, I've never had to drive a truck through New York City or onto Long Island, which is probably why it's ranked so high. I will update you guys. If I have to go through there, I guarantee you that is going to drop down my list a few notches. So, just stay tuned. If I ever have to go to Long Island or anything, I guarantee you New York will go down a few notches. But until then, it stays at number 14. Number 13, we've got Wyoming. Wyoming averages out to be better than it is bad. Wyoming is just a pain in the ass, man. Wyoming is very tough to drive through because there's always some sort of weather going on. Even when it's sunny out and there's no rain or snow, then it's windy. When it's not windy, it's snowing. When it's not snowing, it's raining. And it's icy, and the roads are never cleaned up. And in the wintertime, it's always shut down. So it's a pain to drive through, but I will tell you guys something. Wyoming is incredible. I-80 is average of a road, but I'm talking about up there through the Teton National Park, going across to Casper there. I did that drive with Hodor, actually, probably around, I think it was in September or so, and absolutely one of the most incredible drives of my life ever. And it wasn't even that bad in a truck, you know. It was a good truck route as well. Just incredible. So Wyoming definitely averages out to be better than it is bad. But it is, don't get me wrong, it's a pain in the ass to drive through, and it can be very tricky, especially in the winter. You just got to be careful. So, number 12, we've got Vermont. So I only had one load to Vermont. I haven't done a lot of driving there, but I really enjoyed driving through there. It was really pretty, and of course it's very spread out. There aren't any big cities in Vermont at all. The biggest city in Vermont is Burlington, and it's only like 45,000 people. So Vermont is rural by nature, and I really like that kind of driving. And there's no like enormous mountains that you have to get through, but it is very hilly. I just get a nice feeling driving through there. Now, maybe if I drive through more of the state, I might come back with a different opinion, because I remember my trainer, Travis, telling me that Vermont is a bit of a nightmare and that he hates going there because it's so mountainous and stuff. So maybe I was just in an easy part of the state, but at least with my experience in Vermont, it does rank at number 12. So it's a decent enough state to drive through. Number 11, we've got South Dakota. So, South Dakota is my favorite of the Great Plains states to drive through. South Dakota is nice and hilly in the western part, and then in the eastern part, it just looks like Nebraska, really, with a lot of farmlands and stuff. But I love driving over in the western half where the Black Hills are, and of course you got to go near Badlands National Park as well. I love it out there. South Dakota just feels so open, so wild to me. I don't know. I got a really good vibe there, and it's definitely a state I wish I could go to more, but we don't go through a lot. I've only been through there once, and yeah, I wish we could go through that area more, but it just happens to be in one of those weird places that we just always happen to go around and we never go through. It is what it is, but I enjoy South Dakota then. All right, now we have made it to the top 10. So, number 10, we've got Washington State. Washington State, the only bad thing I could say about Washington is they have a very active DOT for truckers, and they're always looking for a reason to give you a ticket, similar to California. But just do everything right, man. Follow the law. It's not that hard. You know, if you're doing your pre-trips right and you're staying up to date on everything, then you'll be fine. Enjoy the scenery, because it's one of the most beautiful states in the country as well. I love driving through there. I'm actually heading up there now. We're going to Grandview, which is out in Yakima County, eastern Yakima County. So that's probably the least beautiful part of the state at all, if there are any non-beautiful parts of the state. So yeah, I really enjoy driving through Washington. We actually go through there more frequently than I thought we would when I first started. So yeah, this is going to be Hermione's first time there. I'm excited to take her, and Teresa as well. So, but yeah, I really enjoy driving through Washington. So. Number 9, we've got Texas. So, I'm actually curious to what you other truckers think about Texas. My opinion on Texas, for example, is exactly the opposite of my dad's. My dad, of course, was a truck driver, and if he made the same list, he would place Texas dead last. He hates Texas. But for me, I actually really, really like driving through Texas. Texas is an easy state to drive through. Now, put aside Houston and Dallas for a second. If you're anywhere other than those two cities, basically, then Texas is a breeze. You know, there are other cities like San Antonio, Austin, but really they're not that bad to drive through. I guess San Antonio's got a lot of traffic because of the construction and stuff, but generally, I mean, look, you can't please them all, and if you're in a city of any kind, there's going to be traffic, there's going to be congestion. It is what it is. If you had to drive through a city, San Antonio or Austin are not bad ones to drive through, I guess is my overall point. So, but Texas, the biggest thing Texas has going for it is the food. Texas has amazing food. Texas has a lot of like off-brand truck stops, mom and pop truck stops with some kick-ass food. Incredible either Mexican food, barbecue, it doesn't matter. Texas is very truck friendly in that way that you don't have to, and when you're in Texas, please, for the love of God, don't waste your time at the Arby's that's at the Loves or the damn Hardee's or whatever. That's a waste of your money, man. I guarantee you, wherever you park, you can find something close to walk to with some amazing food at it. Texas, that's the biggest thing Texas has going for it. So, I really enjoy driving through Texas, because I always know I'm going to be eating good going through Texas. So, but that's not even the whole thing. I really enjoy Texas, especially out in like the Panhandle near Amarillo. I love driving out there. It's very empty. It's very spread out, and I like the way that it feels out there. I feel like you can almost picture the cowboys running next to your truck in the, out in the prairies and stuff. So I really enjoy Texas. Number 8 is Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, I've never been able to put my finger on it as to why I'm such a fan of Wisconsin, but it is one of my favorite states. And honestly, if I had to pick anywhere to move to out of Florida, one of my top contenders would be Wisconsin. Now, I know that sounds weird, like a Floridian moving to the coldest place in America, one of the coldest places in America, but I really enjoy Wisconsin. Wisconsin is, everyone is, I know I said about Minnesota and Michigan how nice everyone was. Wisconsin, I think, has the nicest people in America. Literally, I don't think I've ever met anyone who's rude or mean from Wisconsin. It's just a pleasure to go there. I've had really good experiences at all my pickups and deliveries in Wisconsin. I haven't had any issues. I haven't had anyone give me any issues. Milwaukee sometimes can have a little traffic through it, which can be a little tough, but generally, pretty much everywhere to drive through in Wisconsin is a breeze. It's nice and easy. And yeah, I really enjoy going there. I always like when they send me to Wisconsin. We go up to the JBS in Green Bay very frequently, so I'm always in Wisconsin. I'm always up there. So we'll probably end up making a video at some point of us going up there. But yeah, I always enjoy when they send me there. Next up, number 7, we've got Colorado. So Colorado is obviously, and this isn't even a secret, one of the most beautiful states in America, just generally talking scenery wise. Now I know it's at number 7, but it would be higher if it weren't for how tricky I-70 is. I-70 is definitely tricky for truckers, and I remember Travis telling me when I was still in training, he said, look, I-70, basically from the months of September until May is just off limits. Just don't even consider it. It's not even a feasible route. It's not even an option. Just don't even risk it. Don't even try it. So, yeah, I-70 is definitely tricky. And I wish we could take it more if it wasn't so dangerous, especially in the winter months. Because it's an incredible, incredible drive. But, honestly, my favorite drive in Colorado is I-25, going up from, New Mexico up into Wyoming. Man, that is just one of the most incredible drives, because you get the mountains out of your left side. If you're going north, at least, you get the mountains out of your left side the whole way, and on the right side is the Great Plains, and they kept the interstate in the flat half for the most part, so it's an easy drive. There's only a couple spots with like uphills and downhills and things, but for the most part, it's a very easy drive, but you still get all the beauty of the mountains. So overall, Colorado definitely averages out to be one of the best states to drive through. Number 6, I have Oregon. Oregon is one of those that has a very active DOT as well, just like California and Washington. Everyone knows the Pacific Coast is tricky if you're a trucker, just all 3 of the states. But I don't really care. Oregon is probably the most underrated state in America, in my opinion. Oregon is absolutely gorgeous. And it's one of the most incredible places I've ever seen. Interstate 84 through the Columbia River Gorge literally looks like freaking Jurassic Park. And then you have Cabbage Patch, which, yeah, I know it's a nightmare and stuff, but it's unbelievable the way what it looks like, So yeah, just every inch of it, especially that road. I wish I could remember the U.S. highway that it is, but that goes down through Bend, down to Klamath Falls. That's a beautiful route as well. So everywhere in Oregon is amazing. I just love driving through there. So ends up at number 6. Number 5, we have Idaho. Idaho is another really nice state to drive through. I really enjoy it. Interstate 84 through Idaho is nice and easy of a drive. You get the mountains way off in the distance, but the road is easy. It's nice and good, flat through the valleys. And then you have 90 up there that goes through Coeur d'Alene, which that's the only tricky part of the state to drive through, really, or at least that I've been to. But also over in southeastern Idaho, near Idaho Falls and stuff, I took a road through Idaho Falls into Wyoming. That was where I went near Teton National Forest or National Park, and that is amazing over there. It's so beautiful, and those roads are good for trucks, man. They keep them up, and nice big wide open roads, usually with 2 roads on each, or 2 lanes on each side. So yeah, it's a good state to drive through. Number 4, we've got Arizona. So Arizona, I love the Southwest. One of my favorite parts of the country to drive through, and Arizona is the epitome of the Southwest. Arizona, especially across I-40, is one of my favorite drives. I'll do another video in the future, but a little sneak peek here. I-40 is one of my favorite interstates to drive through in the country. And of course it goes right through Arizona. I love the desert, man. I love Flagstaff too, going through there. It's so beautiful. It's like a forest in the middle of the desert. It's the craziest thing ever, but, every inch of Arizona is gorgeous in my opinion. I love the mountains. You always have mountains. You always got crazy looking canyons everywhere, cool rock structures. Everything about Arizona I love. So lands at number 4. Number 3, we've got New Mexico. So I know I've heard a lot of truckers who don't like driving through New Mexico, but I don't care. I don't listen to them. I really enjoy New Mexico. I love I-40 across New Mexico, and I-25 through Santa Fe as well. All of that is just incredible. It's a gorgeous drive. Very easy drive. So, I probably should move it down a spot or two, because I will admit to you guys that the road quality in New Mexico leaves some to be desired. The roads kind of suck. They're very bumpy and very cracked up and stuff, but for some reason, every time I go to New Mexico, I get reinforced as to why I love it so much. I just love the drive through there. So every time I'm there, I tend to forget anything that I dislike about it. So number 2 is, all right, number 2, we've got Utah. So we go to Utah very frequently, of course, because one of our other terminals is in Salt Lake City. So we're always going through there. And I-84 through Morgan Canyon in Utah, and as well as just the entire drive of I-15. It does not matter where in Utah I am always perfectly fine going to Utah. It's obviously one of my favorite states. It's absolutely stunning. The gigantic mountains around you in every direction you can see. I have absolutely no issues with Utah whatsoever. I literally can't think of anything bad about Utah. So, I love going there. I love when they send me to Utah. So nothing bad to say whatsoever. Finally, number 1. If you watched our last video, you saw me sneak peek this out to you guys, but number 1 is the state of Nevada. Nevada is my favorite state to drive through. And, like I said in our last video as well, Nevada and Florida are the only 2 states that I have completely finished, my county map on. I've been to every county in Nevada and every county in Florida. Those are my 2 county completions. And, the reason I love Nevada so much is how unbelievably empty it is. Especially when you're out in the middle, like on US 50 going across. I'm pretty sure it's 50 that they call the loneliest highway in America. Oh my goodness, that drive is unreal. You almost feel like you're the only person in the world. And there's something so liberating about that. The mountains going through Nevada, you come up on these mountain ranges just here and there, sort of like spotted across the land. Everything about Nevada I love. I have 0 complaints. I love driving through Las Vegas. You come over that ridge and you see Vegas and the whole valley beneath you. Oh man, everything about it I love. I literally have no complaints about the city of Nevada. So ends up as number 1, Steve. Yeah, another thing I've seen in Nevada as well is I went through there once not too long ago, and I watched the show Ghost Adventures, and I had remembered the town of Tonopah, Nevada. I remember they went there, they had the Clown Motel, and I actually had to stay the night in Tonopah, so I ended up going to see the Clown Motel myself. That was a really cool experience. Hopefully I'll get to go back, and if I do, I'll make a video about it, showing you guys everything that there is to see there. Definitely really cool. I love the history of Nevada, all of the Silver Rush, the Gold Rush stuff. Man, I can't speak enough about it. I love everything about Nevada. So, ends up at number 1, my favorite state. So, anyway, quite a mouthful, but that is all of it. That is 42 states. So, I think it's safe to say I will never drive a truck through Alaska or Hawaii. I think that's a safe assumption to make. But that means there's 6 left that I've got to drive a truck through. So hopefully soon I'll get through those 6, and I'll tell you where they fit on my list after I'm done with that. So for now, guys, I appreciate you sticking around. I know this is a long video, but this is the kind of stuff I love. I love making breaking videos about this stuff, and I love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Any of you truckers out there, you disagree with my list, you agree with it, you think I'm a moron, or you think I'm a genius? What is it? You think I'm right or wrong? So just let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. Make sure you follow us. Hermione, as you can see, has been sitting on my lap this entire video. This is her favorite thing to do when we're stopped. So if you'd like to see more adventures with her as well, then make sure you follow us. And yeah, I think that's it. So stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.